Hi, guys. Welcome in. I hope everyone's having a great day. So, as of recently, I don't know what it is. It may just be the air, it may just be the weather. I've been in a big romance era. Usually, I read like mystery, thriller, suspense, that kind of stuff. But don't get me wrong, I still read romance as well, but just not as heavy as I've been reading it right now. Um, so, I'm here to talk about three books that's had me kicking my feet, getting that dopamine release. You know what I mean? I just, as of lately, it's just like I'm looking for books that I know that is gonna give me that kind of like kick in, kick in the head. That's bad. So there are about like three random books that like I as of recently have read. One of them, it has been a while, but it's still one that does come to my mind probably once a week. One common theme you will see with these books is that I will constantly say that on Goodreads they have some mixed reviews. They have some mixed feelings about how people feel about these books, and that's fine. Yeah, everybody has different opinions, stuff like that, blah, 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 blah. It happens. The first book that I will be talking about is The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. I will say this is probably not probably, it is the first book I've ever read by her. I was influenced by Book Talk, BookTube. We all have been. We've all read books that have come from those two sources. And I enjoyed that book quite a bit, actually. I on a scale of 5, right? I myself would rate it 4. I would rate it 4. None of these books, I will say, just as like a disclaimer, none of these books have reached like a 5-star rating for me, but they were good enough where I was like, hmm, that was a nice kick in the head. I'm gonna keep saying that. So basically, what happens in The Unhoneymooners, and just forewarning here, there may be some spoilers. I'll put up a little screen to let you know when the spoiler is happening and when the spoiler is done, if anyone is still interested in reading this book. But it focuses around our main characters, Olive and Ethan. So basically, what happens is that Olive, her sister Amy, is getting married. Pretty lucky girl, basically has our whole wedding paid for via winning raffles and different types of lotteries, and basically have skirted by through this whole extravagant wedding with just $1,000 out of her pocket. And Olive does not see herself as very lucky. If anything, she sees herself as the opposite. They are twins, by the way. I know, not really relevant, but I find it pretty cool. And so what you would hope wouldn't go wrong goes wrong at the reception when everyone's eating. Everyone catches food poisoning, and the only two people who does not catch food poisoning is Olive and Ethan. Now, Ethan is the groom. I believe his name is Dane. His brother, right? They're brothers. Dane and Ethan are brothers. And basically, just a lot of stuff happens after the whole wedding party gets sick. As you can imagine, just based off of the title alone, The Unhoneymooners, the bride and groom do have a honeymoon planned out that her sister Amy did win, and is non-refundable. They can't move it, they can't reschedule, stuff like that. So they are encouraged from their siblings to go in their place to the honeymoon to enjoy it. Trip to Hawaii, all expenses paid, nothing out of the pocket. I don't know about you, but I would take it too. There would not be that one moment of hesitation. I would also jump on that. And so there's just a lot of different things that do happen throughout their journey. In Hawaii, it's very interesting. I know I'm not making it sound like the most interesting book ever. It is a rom-com, so it is an enemies to lover kind of thing. I did enjoy it. There was lots of banter between the two. There is a reason as to why Olive is not the biggest fan of Ethan, which in my opinion, I would say like I have about like a couple gripes with the book, which is why it's not a 5-star again. But one of them has to be the reason why they're enemies in the first place, which I don't feel is a strong reason for you to hate someone. I don't know. You should read it and let me know. But it is okay in that sense. But like past that, like it's really nice. Like the story sucks you in. I think I finished this book like within a day or two. Like that's how sucked in I was. To be fair, I was listening to the audiobook, so I was able to like move around and do stuff while listening to this book. But it was really good. It was a fun experience for me, that's for sure. Now there are some other things that happened towards the end of this book that, again, I was not a fan of. Just because it's a book. I will say that it's a book. But this book was a gateway for me into Christina Lauren. I pretty much, after this, tailspinned right into the rest of her other books. I believe it was The Soulmate Equation. I read that one. I'm blanking on the rest, but there's even one that she just recently released that I'm currently waiting to borrow from my library right now to read that one. But I really do just like the way that she does rom-com, just because it's, when I'm looking for a rom-com, I'm looking for silly, fun, like, doesn't take itself too seriously, but also isn't so cringy that I just want to just disappear. And I will say, there are, small tangent, there are a couple books that I've DNF'd because the romance was just so cringy that I just could not get through it whatsoever. Actually, one of those books is sitting on, not on this shelf, but another shelf. Well, actually, it has to be this book right here. And I could probably talk about that in another video. I am slowly, painfully trying to get through that book. I really, because the concept is besides the point. I can dive into that in a whole other video. But it just fits the bill of like being too cringy for me to even get through. While with this book, The Unhoneymooners was not that. It was pretty enjoyable, I will say. It's a book that if someone wants a rom-com that's just kind of mindless in a way, doesn't need a lot of thinking, then I would definitely recommend this one. Now, if you're someone who cares a lot about the small details that go into the rom-com and why people hate each other and a bunch of other things, then this book is probably not going to be a fun read for you. Thus, why there's probably a lot of mixed reviews about this book. Again, which I understand. I like briefly scrolled through Goodreads myself after. It's been a while since I like read this book, and this is the book that I was talking about earlier that I like do think about at least once a week. Just, it was, in my opinion, such a fun read, and actually when I think about it, I do believe I read this book coming off of a pretty dark book. Karen Slaughter, one of her books. And if you're quite familiar, those books can be kind of heavy in terms of reading. And so I was just looking for something to like boost my spirits back up, stop the brain from thinking. So Christina Lauren was an option, and I really enjoyed it. It was fun. It's a funny book. It's a good book. It has the right amount of like tension, the right amount of like, in terms of like wanting these characters to like shut up and actually talk to each other. I believe I'm sure like I read this on a YouTube comment somewhere, and I'm not sure I'm not the only one who's read this, but someone had said something about rom-coms are a misunderstanding in a trench coat, which is pretty accurate actually. And so that's what is so frustrating in this book as well, is that they're like kind of like leaning into each other and kind of not. There were a lot of sweet moments between the two as well. I did enjoy this book, and I do recommend it if you're just looking for a mindless read. Now, our next book that I read like 2-3 months ago, It doesn't matter. It was recent. Is the Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. I enjoyed this book. It was a pretty fun book. I know reading the synopsis um, clues you in that it may be somewhat of a serious read, as you know, just as a trigger, death is mentioned in this book. It's actually the entire point of the book. But I went into it thinking it was going to be like a half serious. It is actually. It is like a half serious, half like kind of goofy read. As like I said before, it does like launch into some pretty serious stuff, and about moving on and things like that. But it was fun. The two characters that the main characters for this book are Florence and Benji, but we'll call him Ben. Florence is a ghostwriter for a romance novelist. Ironically enough, she does not believe in happy ever after. So she doesn't like writing those types of endings, like happy endings in terms of romance, due to what happened between her and her ex and so forth. It just a subject that she just refuses to touch, even when it comes to ghostwriting for someone else. And so Benji, or Ben, is our new editor. And he basically just speaks to her and it's like, hey, this is the final book. We are going to need you to put in a happy ever after kind of ending. And she's like, can we not? And he's like, I don't think so. So that's one of the kind of conflicts that happen in this book that she kind of like fights with a little bit. And she has a certain deadline to get this finished by, and I do not believe she has not a page written. I'll correct myself if I'm wrong, but I don't believe she has anything written yet. And this book is like due like soon, like next day kind of soon. So she's like trying to figure out what to do with that and feels like things are kind of like just falling apart because she just doesn't know what to do. And to top things off, her mother calls her and lets her know that her dad passed away. So she basically has to hightail it back home. Crazy part about her family is that they run a funeral home. Her dad was the basically main person who ran basically everything. Everybody helped out in their own ways, different things like that, but he was like the main head over all of that. And so she basically goes home and starts getting arrangements ready for her father. Now, this sounds serious. I know this sounds serious, but this book is kind of like a happy, like not happy go lucky, but like it does have happy vibes. It's not okay, oof, that was kind of heavy. Let me put this book down and let me read it, pick it back up tomorrow. I just had enough. No, it's a book that you can definitely get through in a day. I will say it took me about a week to get through this one just because I was so busy at the time, but it was a good book. I mean, she's creating funeral arrangements for her father, and her father leaves her and the family a list of things that he wants done for his funeral, his different types of arrangements. And so basically, her and her family are trying to figure out how they can get these different wishes met that her father has left for them. Well, on top of that, Benji gets hit by a car. He gets hit by a car, so guess what? Florence doesn't have to worry about that deadline anymore for that book. So basically, while also trying to get the arrangements ready for her father, Ben just appears out of nowhere as a ghost, and she basically is like, "Holy, you're a ghost!" Like, was totally not expecting this. So basically, has a companion do all this, speaks with Ben. They start to connect with each other, get to know each other a little bit more intimately, like learning about his life and he's learning about hers and like her family, what's going on, and the little bit of friction she has with her other sister. So it's a lot of different stuff that's happening there, but it's all like written out pretty well. And I know it all sounds very serious, and it is. However, it is like a very fun read as well. And I would say the ending is definitely cute. I enjoyed it. This book had me like so giddy. So giddy. Definitely one of my favorites, that's for sure. Again, I would rate this book a 4.5, in my opinion. Not a complete five, just because it just at the time was not the complete vibes that I was looking for. Didn't check all my boxes, but it was a really good book, really good read, very fun. I enjoyed it. I do recommend it for anyone that's looking for an interesting read. I don't know if I would categorize this as a supernatural romance. I don't think. I guess so. Also, I'm getting up this far without even saying like, oh, that's weird. She could see ghosts. Well, it's because both her and her father can see ghosts and speak with ghosts, and her father basically preaches to her about helping these individuals move on, and like they interact with you, interact with them, figure out what's going on, help them move on, and so forth, so forth. So that's why she's able to see Ben. Not really explained as to why her father and her are the only ones in their entire family to even have this ability. But it's very interesting. I definitely recommend it. It was fun. It was giddy. Her ex is a douchebag. That's a little thing to tag on there. But yeah, it's a really good book. Definitely one that is for my thinkers. One for my rom-com thinkers. But also, like, if you want something kind of silly as well, this one's a good one. Like, while also having that serious aspect, I will definitely say the plot in this one is much more enjoyable than the Unhoneymooners. I will say that, just because I'm a sucker for anything that's out of the ordinary. But yeah, I do recommend this. Very good. Ate this one up. It's The Long Game by Elena Armas, right? Okay, listen. Our girl Elena has written some other books, The Spanish Love Deception and The American Roommate Experiment. I think I'm saying that one wrong. I will say, I noticed that people are kind of mixed when it comes to her books. I will admit, I tried, honey. I tried to read The Spanish Love Deception. Read would not be the right way to listen. I tried to listen to it. I am an audiobook listener just because life is busy. I sometimes don't have time to sit down and read these books physically, so the audiobooks work out a bit better for me. Potato. But I tried to listen to it. Girl, it just chapter 1 I DNF'd. I know that's terrible. I do. It's just and look, I revisited that book 3 times, and I could not do it. And it may just be a book that I may have to just physically read. It's just that for some reason, I just could not picture the main male character's voice being like scratchy, scraggly, and I was just like, I can't do this. I can't do it. Hats off to the voice actors. Are they called voice actors? The people who read the books for you. Shouts out to them. They're amazing at what they do. They really can suck you in. But just for me, for that character, I just cannot picture his voice as that. And it just, girl, I could not get through it. I couldn't do it. But I did get through this one. The Long Game, honey. Girl. Definition of kicking your feet, okay? Definition of kicking your feet. Definition of getting kicked in the head and being like, thank you. It was a good book. I enjoyed it. I had fun. Even now, just thinking about it makes me giddy. So that's how you know it was a really good, fun read for me. So our main characters here are Adeline and Cameron. Adeline is basically your rich girl. Dad's a owner or CEO of like a soccer club, I believe Miami Heat. Girl, I don't do sports, so sorry if those details blank on me. But yeah, so her dad's basically rich. Dad's rich. Cameron is an ex soccer player who basically just runs for the hills. He went through something that I think caused him to run to the hills. I don't want to give it away. I do recommend reading this book, so I won't give away too much. But something does happen with Adeline where she's basically forced, um, in a way, to just basically hightail it out of town as well. And she is sent to this place in one of the Carolinas to basically reform, this soccer team that's just a soccer team full of little girls, one of which who enjoys playing soccer in a tutu. And that was a nice touch. And basically making them kind of known, basically prove to her father that she is still capable of doing her job. We like follow her journey through this, along with her journey of talking with Cam, convincing Cam to do like certain things to help out with the soccer team, little girls, things like that. It's a very interesting read, definitely very fun. Character development, shaky, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it kind of forgettable. But I know a lot of people are mixed about this book as well. It's a hit or miss for sure. But this one was a big hit for me. It was just, I really, really enjoyed reading, listening, reading. What do you think? Are audiobooks really reading or no? Let me know. Yeah, I do recommend reading it. It was a fun read. Some kind of funny things happen. I will say, out of all the books I talked about today, this one is probably the most funny. Now, there are a couple of things that do happen in this book that are like, maybe I shouldn't think about it. But it's an enjoyable book. I really liked it. I recommend it for sure. Cam has 2 cats. So cute. Talks about them like they're humans. We all do. You know, little kids were so adorable. If anything, they were my favorite part of this book as well. Whenever it went back to them, it was pretty enjoyable as well. There are some things where I was like, girl, what? Just one thing I will say, her father, POS. That's it. That's all that has to be said. Her father, her father is just something else, that's for sure. There are some moments where it's like, that's kind of, she talks about it a little bit and it's just like, my heart goes out to her, like, this is words, they're gone. Listen, I said give this one a try from Elena. I will say that it was just really fun. I don't want to give away too much because I just really want you to try it out and see how this book was. For me, I would rate this book a 4.5. I believe the Goodreads score on this, now let me check it real quick. The Goodreads score on this one was a 3.6, so definitely the lowest Goodreads score out of this whole entire video. But just like, okay, because like I said before, this book is a hit or miss. Like, this book is definitely not for a thinker. If you like your rom-com to make sense, just not going to be the book for you. I'm sorry. Now, today I did find out that there is a second one for this book centered around another character that we find out about in this book. That in the main character is the person we find out about in this book and Adeline's best friend. Now, I'm not sure if I'm too interested in reading about her best friend. I may just read it just because I really like The Long Game, just to see if it's a good read. But I may try it out. I don't know. That one we'll just see. And this one also, like, that one also takes place in the same town as well. So I may just like check it out. But I don't know. We'll see. And maybe at the just very bottom of my to be read. Just, I don't know. I don't have any desire to find out what's going on. But it's a really good book. I really enjoyed it. I definitely recommend it. Don't know how many times I'm going to tell you to read it. Read it. That's all I'm going to say. Or not. Totally up to you. You have free will. And it could be used on reading this book. These were my 3 books that had me kicking my feet. That's for sure. And one of these is a head kicker. That is for sure. I'll have them listed in the description below. Let me know your thoughts on the books that I talked about today. And let's remember, your 5-star read, maybe somebody else's 1-star read, vice versa. So let's be kind, right? And let me know what else I should talk about. If you guys really want me to go a deep dive into To Have and To Heist. That one is kind of difficult for me to get through. I'm not going to lie to you about that one. So is the Spanish Love Deception. So, let me know. Thank you guys for coming in. See you next time. Bye.